air was crisp with the coolness of the late afternoon, as Jesus and his disciples made their way out of the grand city of Jerusalem. The golden sun cast its last shimmering rays upon the majestic temple, its white marble walls and gilded accents gleaming in the light. The disciples, full of admiration, turned to their master and pointed toward the magnificent structure. "Teacher, look at these massive stones and the grandeur of the temple," one of them exclaimed, marveling at the architectural wonder that King Herod had expanded to a scale of unmatched splendor. Jesus turned his gaze upon the temple, his expression filled with sorrow. "Do you see all these things?" he said. "I tell you the truth, not one stone here will be left upon another. Every one will be thrown down." His words struck the disciples with a sense of unease. How could such a grand structure, the very heart of Jewish worship, be utterly destroyed? With heavy thoughts, they followed him as he led them out of the city toward the Mount of Olives. The slope of the mount provided a clear and unobstructed view of the temple complex, its beauty stark against the fading sky. As they settled around him, Peter, James, John, and Andrew mustered the courage to ask the question weighing on their hearts. "Tell us, when will these things happen? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?" Jesus looked at them, his gaze piercing yet filled with compassion. "Watch out that no one deceives you," he warned. "For many will come in my name, claiming, 'I am the Messiah,' and will deceive many. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come." The disciples listened intently as Jesus continued, his words painting a picture of the days to come. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains. The wind whispered through the olive trees as Jesus' voice carried on, solemn yet certain. "Then you will be handed over to be persecuted and put to death, and you will be hated by all nations because of me. At that time, many will turn away from the faith and betray and hate each other. Many false prophets will appear and deceive many people. Because of the increase of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved." He paused, allowing the weight of his words to sink in before continuing. "And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come." The disciples exchanged glances, their minds racing with the gravity of his prophecy. Jesus then spoke of the Great Tribulation, referring to the words of the prophet Daniel. "When you see standing in the holy place the abomination that causes desolation, spoken of through the prophet Daniel, let the reader understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let no one on the housetop go down to take anything out of the house. Let no one in the field go back to get their cloak. How dreadful it will be in those days for pregnant women and nursing mothers. Pray that your flight will not take place in winter or on the Sabbath." The history of Jerusalem flashed through their minds: sieges, invasions, desecrations of the temple in times past. But Jesus spoke of an even greater distress, one unlike anything the world had seen. "For then there will be great distress, unequaled from the beginning of the world until now, and never to be equal again. If those days had not been cut short, no one would survive. But for the sake of the elect, those days will be shortened." Jesus' warnings grew even more urgent. "At that time, if anyone says to you, 'Look, here is the Messiah,' or "There he is," do not believe it. For false messiahs and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. The disciples clung to every word, their hearts both troubled and awed. So, if anyone tells you, "There he is, out in the wilderness," do not go out. Or, "Here he is, in the inner rooms," do not believe it. For as lightning that comes from the east is visible even in the west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. The sun had now dipped below the horizon, and the sky was painted in hues of deep purple and gold. Jesus' voice carried a final promise. Immediately after the distress of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken. Then will appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and all the peoples of the earth will mourn when they see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. The disciples trembled at the vision he described. And he will send his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of the heavens to the other. Jesus then turned their attention to a lesson from nature. Now learn this lesson from the fig tree. As soon as its twigs get tender and its leaves come out, you know that summer is near. Even so, when you see all these things, you know that it is near, right at the door. Truly I tell you, this generation will certainly not pass away until all these things have happened. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. The firelight flickered in their eyes as they hung on his every word. But about that day or hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. He spoke of the days of Noah, how people were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, up until the day Noah entered the ark. They knew nothing about what would happen until the flood came and took them all away. That is how it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. He warned them to stay vigilant. 2 men will be in the field, one will be taken, and the other left. 2 women will be grinding with a hand mill, one will be taken, and the other left. Therefore, keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come. Jesus concluded with a parable about a wise and faithful servant, urging them to be ready at all times. It will be good for that servant whose master finds him doing so when he returns. Truly I tell you, he will put him in charge of all his possessions. But suppose that servant is wicked and says to himself, "My master is staying away a long time." And he begins to beat his fellow servants and to eat and drink with drunkards. The master of that servant will come on a day he does not expect, and at an hour he is not aware of. The disciples sat in silence as the weight of Jesus' words settled over them. The temple still stood in the distance, its brilliance undiminished by the darkness. But they now saw it differently. The world as they knew it would one day change. But their master had spoken of hope, a coming kingdom, a glorious return. And so they listened, they watched, and they waited.
Thank you for watching. Kindly like, comment, and subscribe. Click on the notification bell so you can be alerted anytime a new video is uploaded. And please don't forget, share and be a blessing to someone. God richly bless you. Shalom.